Hey horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of Child's Play 2019. Alright, so cast and crew and some other information down below. And real quick, the plot from IMDb. A mother gives her 13-year-old son a toy doll for his birthday, unaware of its more sinister nature. Alright, so plenty to talk about here. And obviously this is a remake of Chucky and Child's Play. So, I guess there's more to talk about, if I would have done this maybe right when it was released, either in theaters or released on DVD, but unfortunately I didn't catch it at either of those times. So I might be a little late to the party here, but regardless, it's kind of strange, I guess I'll talk a little bit about putting it on, that they felt a need to do a Child's Play remake, considering, Chucky's had two other recent movies done over the last couple of years, kind of reviving the whole franchise here and bringing him back to life. Two movies which weren't bad. You could have said, when they brought him back a couple of years ago, why another sequel? It could have been bad because we've seen that happen with some other franchises where it's taken a long time off and throw in another sequel and it just ended up being why'd they go and do that for? But they've able to kind of revive Chucky in a way, or at least do it some decent justice here, not a total falling flat on its head. And so it was really strange that they decided to do a whole new Chucky here. But obviously this is a different team. This has nothing to do with the original people who put Child's Play together. And actually it seemed like there's some competition there. I remember when it was announced and that they were doing this, there was some back and forth because they want to do a Chucky TV series as well, and I believe that's still the plans. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do another movie, and I'm talking about from the original standpoint, not from this one. So it is a weird way to go about it, but it is what it is. I think the next thing to say here is kind of with, like, if you saw my review of Black Christmas, I kind of ripped into that one because I felt they were really trying to use the name Black Christmas in order to get people to watch that movie, where they kind of just totally flip the movie and do their own thing there and basically drag the name through the mud there. And I think you're tempted to say that here and maybe say it in some ways, but I'm not going to totally rip on it here, just because the main difference here is yeah, of course it's a grab here using Child's Play name here, and going back to Chucky and using the Buddy doll and so forth. It made it easy, and it was probably because they did that they were able to bring in a Mark Hamill to do the voice of Chucky as well. It probably put everything together in that standpoint, but whereas I really feel that it might have been nice for them to just name this some other movie, come up with some other creative name, and try to roll with it that way, but instead they do the Child's Play thing here, and I'll tell you the big difference between what they did in Black Christmas and what they did here, and then I'll kind of dive a little bit more into the movie itself here. And is with Black Christmas, yeah, there's a small scene at the beginning that kind of clues you that something different might happen, but then they go and they do an extended, basically very similar setup to what Black Christmas is before they flip it into whatever garbage they decided to bring in with the supernatural and the BS there. Here, I think, right off the bat, that this film is going to be different. Yeah, there are the similarities, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think right off the bat, I think it shows you that this is going to be different. They don't try to take you down a totally similar route and then flip it on you. If you remember the opening to Child's Play, you see that their crime has been committed, the guy is running, and he hides in the store, and then goes into the body of Chucky, and that's how it begins. Whereas this is you're seeing in a factory, and a guy who gets yelled at, and he gets mad, and he decides to tamper with the doll, and then that's how kind of Chucky becomes Chucky in that way. So it doesn't have anything to do with a criminal, doesn't have anything to do that. Yeah, it has to do with bad circumstances, but I think from the start you had a very different setup here with how Chucky becomes Chucky. So right away you're kind of taken in a different path. So, and I think they do enough of that to continue that in a different direction and not totally suck you into the same world of Child's Play. Whereas Black Christmas, they, like I said, they do that small scene there, but then they really try to get you comfortable in that Black Christmas kind of theme before they flip it on you. So I think that's the big difference here. Still, I would have liked to see that maybe this movie was named something else, and I think kind of jumping ahead to my overall thoughts is that this was a good movie. And it would have stood its ground, I think, if you would have named it anything else. I think the problem there, and obviously why they called it Chucky, is that maybe it would have had less of an audience. I know, big time horror fans wanted to see this, especially when you throw in Mark Hamill with the voice. I think some horror fans that definitely did not see Black Christmas because they were tired of a remake, knew that wasn't going to work, and just didn't see it, where they probably thought that about this movie, where it's like, I don't want to see another Chucky, blah, blah, but Mark Hamill's the voice, and, maybe they did something here, let me go see it. So I think that Child's Play probably was able to pull in that audience where Black Christmas definitely did not. And I'm just saying that without looking at the numbers. I don't know. I'm just making a big assumption there. But at least from my standpoint, that's the way I view it. So anyway, from there, the movie kind of introduces Andy. So you do have Andy. You do have the mom dynamic there. You do have the mom who works in a store, but it's a little bit different of a store. She does get her hands on the Chucky doll. A little bit of a different dynamic there as well. But here the doll is kind of an upgrade here. This is like a Chucky for the new world, which is again why I think maybe in a different way of remakes, this in a way makes sense because you're redoing it. You're making it about a new age, a new doll. For those who saw Chucky back in the day, that doll was very fitting for the time period. We used to have those dolls. We're lucky where it said maybe 3 or 4 things that were recorded, and that was fabulous. This is obviously a big time, more advanced doll here in this movie, more fitting for the times that we live in now. So, you could see that argument for a remake and so forth here because of that. So there is that angle and there is that argument. And that obviously makes it a big difference here in the movie. This doll is think of it as if Alexa was actually in a doll and can control everything around you because of some big company that's putting out the dolls. So Alexa can control a lot in your house, but stay still, Alexa. She can do multiple things for you, set alarms, do this, play music for you, give you your schedule, and so forth. So think of it as Chucky being able to do a lot more. Obviously, this Chucky doll starts off, very basic. He needs to learn a little bit, and he's not so in tune to all those things. He's mostly concerned with just being Andy's friend. But then things go wrong, and he does take advantage of the fact that he can do those things. So this is a huge difference in the two dolls here. Whereas the original Chucky was just mean-spirited, and he just wanted to use Andy to basically get out of that doll body. Here's not that fact. Here was more tuned to the fact that he just wanted to be friends. He wanted to be friends with Andy, but really like the only friend. He wanted the only attention there, and he wanted to protect Andy. So he kind of takes things in different ways, in the wrong way, and kind of does things that maybe he shouldn't. Doesn't help that Andy shows him a horror movie. I believe it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, I think, which, kind of puts some bad thoughts in his head altogether. But, it's more like Chucky learns to be evil, not was a doll with evil was put in. So, you got that difference going for you as well. Here you have a mom that has a boyfriend that Andy doesn't like. That plays a role in it. A cat that he doesn't like. That plays a role in it. So here you're having, them sprinkle in some different elements with that. But the landscape is there. You have the mom and you have Andy. But then Andy also has friends in this one. I think in the original, you see Andy is very much alone. It isn't until the sequels that he gets other people involved. Here, the original was very much just Andy, his mom, and then the detectives and so forth. Here, Andy has a group of kids and a couple of friends, and they get involved, with how the outcome happens in this movie as well. So you're having a little bit more involvement there, and a little bit of a different atmosphere and so forth. So there are a lot of differences. So again, why not name this movie something else? And I think it would have been fine. I think you could have gotten away with it. Yeah, there would probably been people like me that said, that's kind of reminds me of a bit of a Chucky. Obviously you couldn't have named the kid Andy, and there wouldn't have been Chucky. You would have had a different name for the doll. You would have probably erased those kind of things. You could have used a different age kid, different circumstance about how he got the doll. There would have been easy ways to erase different things. But, I think they could have pulled it off and still fit with a similar theme here. So you didn't really necessarily need the Child's Play name attached to this. I'm kind of going back and forth. I can, usually I want to just rip on it, but I can kind of see the back and forth here. Obviously, my preference would have been for them just to say this was something different. I know in the end game is all about the money, and again, I'm going to make another assumption and say that Mark Hamill might not have done the voice if it wasn't for this being Child's Play. If you would have approached him and said this was just going to be a killer doll movie, named whatever, maybe he wouldn't have done it. Maybe he would have to pay him more. I don't know. But maybe he would not have done it. And then maybe you would have seen the same audience that saw Black Christmas seeing this, and you would have lost a piece of audience. I don't know. But I think after watching it, it is very clear that this movie could have been named something else. So, kind of getting back to the story, we know how this goes. Chucky becomes more evil in a way towards the movie, throughout the movie. I'm not going to give away the ending. Obviously, Andy and Chucky are going to have a showdown in some form in some way. I don't want to give any of that away. Let you guys see it if you haven't seen it. It is a little exciting. It wasn't too bad. I don't want to spoil things. I do like what they did. They do add some things there. Again, kind of incorporating what you might expect because Chucky controls so many things. So they did take advantage of that opportunity. Let's just say at the end of the movie when you see the scene that sets up, they do take advantage of what Chucky can do towards the end. Maybe he could have done even more, maybe so, but again, remember Chucky's, kind of transitioning here through the entire movie. He starts off with not knowing much, then to learning what his capabilities are as the movie goes on. And he does take advantage of that in the end, and they do set up some good things to happen. Maybe I'd like to see a little bit more of certain things happen there in the end, but I thought it was okay, and thought they decently incorporate everything there at the end. As for the kills in it, I was a little disappointed in that. I wanted to see maybe a little bit more. I probably should have looked to see at the death count of the original versus this one. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say that maybe this one had more. I don't know. Maybe it was exact. I don't know the figures. Just kind of thinking about it in my head right now, I might lean to this one might have more, but not by a whole bunch. But I would have liked to see more. I believe this one was... They did make it R, and definitely there is one scene kind of, if I'm going to say more in the middle of the movie, there is one death that is kind of bloody and so forth. So that death definitely yells rated R. And that is a lot of the blood you do see in the movie. The first death is... I liked it. I don't know if they got all the blood in that maybe you wanted to see. But I did enjoy it. It was a good death, and so was the other one. Maybe I wanted to see maybe a little bit more, but again, if I'm gonna be fair and compare it to the original, there wasn't a whole lot in that one either. There was the babysitter, but we didn't see much from her because she went out the window. And then I believe that the guy in the house, and I think there might have been another guy that Chucky had dealings with, they killed. And then that might have been it, if I can remember quickly off the top of my head here. So there wasn't a whole lot. I wonder if it was that. Let me see real quickly. Yeah, that one was rated R too, so there must have been something besides, I know Chucky was a little more foul mouth in that one. He's not as much foul mouth in this one. And then, I guess the other thing that I should mention that I haven't mentioned is obviously the look of Chucky. I even when Chucky turns evil in the original, they do some things to make sure that he's evil, where, he looks like the friendly doll when he's being just the buddy doll. Here, they do change the look. It doesn't look exactly like Chucky. Definitely a different face structure again, which plays to, why couldn't you just make another doll? You could have just changed his outfit altogether. You could have changed his size, his hair color. There are different things you could have done to change the look if you wanted to name this a different movie. But, they kind of stick a little bit to the same kind of colored outfit in the jeans. And the hair color is kind of the orangish kind of color, but his face structure is a little bit different. The way his eyes is different, and obviously he has the technology behind him, and that's different as well. But he definitely looks different, and then his eyes definitely become red. His eyes become red when he's really in evil mode later in the movie, happening more later in the movie. He doesn't... I'm going to say he never really gets into full Chucky, just evilness. He does turn bad as the movie progresses, and especially at the end. But, there's never... And again, I guess, that's just making of... The original Chucky was born of somebody who was really just a bad person. And this was more of a robot that just... basically had his bad settings turned off, so there's no filter there, and then basically is just learning to be bad on cue, from what he's seeing around him. So there's just a lot of back and forth here. To kind of round it out here and finalize everything. Was it a bad movie? No. Was it fabulous? No. Was it worth making? Probably. I would have preferred maybe it be under a different name. Take out some certain elements and go with your own movie. Again, I understand why they probably didn't go that route and left it as child's play and brought in Mark Hamill and so forth. Do we need this to become a new franchise and sequel off and do a bunch of sequels? If maybe they didn't go the Chucky route and named it something different, I might be all in for that, because again, him being more of a robot than per se doll. And with the capabilities he has, I think, like I said, there are other things that he could have done, which might be interesting in a sequel, but mostly because he's a robot, not mostly because this is Chucky. So again, kind of lean towards the fact that it might have been nice for this to be a standalone movie, and then you could have sequels. Again, that would have been hard because I wouldn't have projected this would have made as much money without the Child's Play label. So do I need to see a sequel? Maybe not. Would I be surprised? No. Is the door open? Yes. There's plenty of ideas they could do with the technology behind Chucky, so that they could do, and that might be interest. And if they do part 2, I might like to see them go a more total original route there, and open up that box of him being a robot and so forth. But that's in the future, and that's a big what if. Again, as for this movie, the acting is not bad. The boy is fine, the mom is fine. They bring in another detective. He's pretty funny. There's some funny playoff cops there as well. Again, so not a bad movie overall. It's just, did it need to be Child's Play? I'm going to say no. Did it damage Child's Play? Probably not. Am I as pissed as Black Christmas? No, I'm not as pissed as I was with watching Black Christmas. I don't think they tried to fool anybody here. I think, off the set, they made it pretty clear that, yeah, going into it, you were expecting Chucky and Child's Play and so forth, but as the movie rolls on, there's enough differences off the bat that I don't think you feel like they're trying to fool you in any way. So with that, I'm kind of on edge. I going back and forth between whether I want to make it 2.5 pools of blood or 3. I want to bring it down because it's a remake, but I don't think if I kind of disconnect from the remake part, I don't think it was a bad movie. Again, I'm kind of thinking of it. If it was named anything else, would have I liked this movie? I think yes. Because they made it a remake, that kind of pisses me off and makes me want to maybe rate it a little bit lower. But I think I'm going to give this 3 pools of blood because I think it was strong enough. And again, give it 3 pools of blood, kind of disconnecting it from Chucky, trying to think of it mostly as its own movie, and not trying to compare it so much. Even though I've talked a lot about the 2 movies, when I give this final rating, try to think of it squarely as the movie by itself, and not comparing it with the original, which we all love and which set up a great iconic horror character, for us all to see and still enjoy to this day because it still rolls on somehow, some way. So I'm really separating that out and saying it's 3 pools of blood, based here on this movie because I thought it was good, and I can't, totally pull it apart because there are certain aspects of it, of the story that are there from the original. But, I guess first thought, I want to give it 2.5, just because it's not totally unique. But I think I'm going to lean the 3 pools of blood and kind of be fair in that way. Because as you know, I like the opportunity to rip on remakes, and I think I maybe not ripped on it, but I think I've taken a few hits at this one. But I also, I got to give it credit when something's due credit, and remake or not, I'll give something credit if it deserves it. I try to be as fair as possible. So yeah, stop meandering about this one. Chucky's gonna get me any minute now. So 3 pools of blood. I'll leave it at that. Definitely, you want to comment on it, agree, disagree, your thoughts on this versus the original. Feel free to do so in the comment section below. Feel free, if you see me tweeting about this, Facebooking about this, social media is down below as well. Comment there as well. Talk to me about this movie, other movies, something you want me to review, see, or I should see, that's fine. Of course, if you're looking for more reviews, horrorgoryreviews.blogspot.com. It's where you can find more reviews, including written ones, and of course, you can always subscribe to this channel if you're just interested in the video ones. With that, I will leave this remake to rest and move on to the next review, and I will catch you later, horror fans.